Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast.
Hey, I got a bone to pick.
Guys, I am so fired up.
Sleep deprived and all, I'm happy to be here.
You probably cut up your hot dog. You don't need it on a bun.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. It is Monday, November 11th at 10:13 in the a.m. as we record this. My name is Rob Doster. I have Terrence Oglesby with me. I have John Fanta with me. And fellas, it was about as good of an opening weekend in college basketball as you are going to be able to get. We had 4 big boy matchups on Friday and Saturday, and all of them delivered. All of them were exciting. All of them were fun for different reasons. We're going to have to talk a little bit about Louisville. I'm not off the bandwagon yet, T.O. I know you're riding with me. We got to talk about what the hell is going on with Baylor and Arkansas. And, of course, we had 2 Blue Bloods facing off on Friday night. But before we get into any of that, we had a fight in a plane. We had a fight on a plane, and they had to turn the plane around. And then Auburn, they get all the way on. They get like more than halfway to Houston, and they got to turn the flight around because there's a fight in the plane. And then they land, and then they leave 2 guys at home, and then they go back to Houston on a different flight while Bruce Pearl's out there asking boosters for more money so they could get a different flight. And then they get to Houston, and they walk into the Toyota Center, and they whip up on the Cougs. What the hell is happening in Auburn, Fanta?
Yeah, Snakes on a Plane has a sequel, and it comes from the jungle. Well, 2 planes later, Auburn has their first ever non-conference win over a top 4 opponent. What a win, what a game, and what a 24 hours for that program. You know, you go from looking at the inevitable of, okay, they had issues getting there. There was a literal flight, ripped clothes, horseplay. Haven't heard that word in years. I mean, it's been
that showed Goodman's age right there, horseplay.
Yeah, he didn't help his age at all. He aged about 5 more years with that tweet. That said, what we watched on Saturday night between Houston and Auburn felt like a Final Four game. Felt like a front runner that's going to be hard to top. It will be topped because as the year goes on, there'll be even more amazing stuff that happens. But there is a clear horse in the race for game of the year through week 1. And that's going to be my barometer for what can top that, because that's how good of a game it was. Auburn. Tahad Pettiford is a problem. He is a big problem for everyone else. On a night when Denver Jones and J.P. Pegues might as well have sat down, they would have combined 1 for 5. They did nothing in this game. Bruce Pearl had to have somebody step up in his backcourt, and the freshman had big cojones and stepped up in a huge way, making tough threes, coming up with huge plays, setting the tone from an energy standpoint. And for Auburn to shoot well over 50%, 57% in the second half. Nobody does that against Houston. Janai Broome was All-American down the stretch. On this night, L.J. Cryer shot 5 for 14. If he shoots better and is more in his zone, the game could have gone differently. I don't discredit Houston. I don't have them falling in my top 25. I have Auburn jumping up into the top 5. The Tigers are legit and showed us that when we talk about how they guard and the way Bruce Pearl's teams guard, Rob, that if this team, that's the constant, but if Pettiford is this big of a problem and those other guards figure some things out, yes, Auburn can get that elusive national championship.
I mean, look, man, like Janai Broome was awesome in the second half, right? We were talking about it before we hit record. There was one play early in the second half where it felt like Houston was kind of pulling away with it. I think they pushed the lead out to 9, and Janai Broome gets the ball in the wing and takes one dribble and takes off from the logo and just goes up with 2 hands and puts it down over Juwan Roberts. And it was really, really impressive to see that. I think I underestimated how big and long and athletic they were on all of their wings, right? Even without 6'8", athletic Ja'Kai Howard and 6'7", 240-pound Jaheim Hudson. Like there was just wave after wave after wave of 6'7", 230-pound athletic, aggressive, tough, physical wing that you could put out there. They can go big with Dylan Cardwell playing next to Janai Broom. They can play small with with I guess it's frankly small, but Janai Broom at the 5. My one thing with Todd Pettiford though is we saw the flashes from Aiden Holloway last year, right? He had, I think it was 18-6 in the first game of the season against Baylor. I want to say he had 24 against Indiana at one point in December. He had another big game and I think he scored 15. Blanking on who they played. It was the second week of the season, but he was awesome for like the first 4 weeks of the year. And then you got to SEC play, and then teams kind of had him better scouted, and they were playing teams that kind of knew what Auburn wanted to do, and you just kind of saw it fall away for Aiden Holloway a little bit towards the end of the year. So that's my question with Todd Pettiford, right? Like, is this something where he can last the whole season playing this way? Because if he is, he changes it. T.O., we talked about it a little bit.
He's much more Jared Harper than he is Aiden Holloway. Like he's just so quick.
That's high praise. Then that's very.
I think he's that. I think he's that good. If you remember, like we all saw him at Peach Jam.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing alongside Elliot Cadeau, going into his junior year, and then Elliot reclasses up, and then it was like Tahad's thing. But Tahad's much more of a scorer, and Bruce has always done well with those type of guys, lead guards that can score, create a little bit on their own. Like I mean this in a good way. He's found a way that's worked. Bruce hasn't varied up a lot of his calls or what he's done offensively. There's been some tweaks, some not Calipari tweaks, but there's been some tweaks. But he does best with a guy who can create, and you have a quick high ball screen, and a guy can go. Todd Pettiford's that guy. And I said before the season to our straight out the jungle pod on the Field of 68 guys, I was like, how quickly Todd Pettiford gets comfortable could be very indicative of how good Auburn does in the pre-conference.
Mm-hmm.
And he is he's a very talented scorer. He's going to play well alongside some of those other guys. I said JP Pegues is not necessarily like an Auburn type dude, and I meant that because he's better when the ball moves. Ball's not going to move a ton, and there's some over dribbling that happens at Auburn sometimes.
Yeah,
not saying that's a bad thing. That's just what they do. And that fits what Todd Pettiford is. He wants to dribble the air out of the ball, but he can also get downhill in a hurry. So, like, how good they're going to be is going to be indicative of how good he can be quickly. And the flight thing, man, that's an elite situation like I've never heard. You know how crazy you have to be to get to U-turn a private plane?
It's not like this is not.
You have to be shaking furniture, boys.
This is not like a Spirit Airlines flight.
This is not. This is a private plane.
They spent $100,000 on this flight to take them from Auburn to Houston. They were closer to Houston than they were to Auburn when they turned this thing around, and they had to go back to Auburn and get a new plane because of what was happening. If anyone's heard that
at that point,
audio,
why not just land? That point, but I guess that's a situation where Ja'Kai Howard and Jaheim Hudson were not going to be welcome back. I mean, that the consequences here, the repercussions from this are going to be fascinating whenever they do get released.
Isn't it a felony to cause a disturbance in the air like that?
Yes, on a commercial.
I was
commercial like it's a felony.
Yeah, I was talking with someone about that. Like the FAA is going to have to put together a report on this. Like this is not just.
This isn't like just nothing.
Yeah.
Like, dude, could you imagine being 30,000 feet in the air and somebody causing a scuffle so bad the plane moves?
Yeah.
So it was a freshman and a senior.
You know what I think happened? Yeah, but did you guys see the body? Did you guys see the body language of Ja'Kai Howard?
Yes.
Did you see this?
Yes.
I think a senior said, "I'm tired of your shit. Quit being a punk." And then Ja'Kai said something back, and like it just started a rumble. Ja'Kai's had maturity issues in the past. That was kind of his red flag with the 5-star rating and all that stuff. You can't act like that. One guy got sick of it, and he got pissed. And then they got in a little scuffle. And like now, you can't do that. It's one guy's last go around, and it's one freshman who doesn't know how the world works yet. Probably copped an attitude, and they did it at 30,000 feet. They should have done it in the locker room before they left. There would have been an issue.
Right. There would not have been an issue. What I can't believe is how many times I have, I mean, T.O., you've been on your charters, I'm sure, in your career at some point, right?
Yeah, we chartered at Clemson.
You chartered everywhere. Yeah. And that was when not everyone did, but you in the ACC, you're chartering. I've been on charter planes with teams, and at nighttime, when the charter's happening, the plane is quiet. Like the guys had their headphones in. A lot of them are sleeping. That's what I couldn't believe. This was a Friday night flight, and these two just start to have a brouhaha on the plane during a flight where most of the time on a night plane, when it's dark, if you're a player, you are savoring the time to sleep. And these two, I'm sorry, but these two idiots start to fight on the plane. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I think it'll be really telling to see
who's on the team next week and who isn't.
Yeah, who's on the team next week, who isn't, and who is back in the rotation if they're on the team, and who isn't. Yeah, fantastic win for Auburn. Not much more you can say about it beyond that. Like, they are number one on KenPom right now. They might end up. We're recording this before the AP poll is out. They might end up being the number one team in the AP poll when that gets released. Like, they're awesome. I underrated them. I apologize. Auburn fans, please don't hate me forever. One last note on Houston.
They hate me forever, John. Rob, join the party.
T.O., I feel like you're just kind of stacking the fan bases that dislike you at this point.
I'm just going one at a time, league by league. I started out as the good guy.
Yeah, you did. Everyone loved you for a while, and then all of a sudden you started making some good points, and now they're like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this guy. T.O.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd hate for T.O. to tell the truth and predict an upset.
Yeah.
I'd hate for that to happen.
Fana, real quick, just on Houston, does this change the way you view them? They just run into the wrong team at the wrong time. I mean, they gave up 1.533 points per possession in the second half to an Auburn team that is not exactly known as the greatest offensive team in the history of college basketball.
Well, Milo Shuzan learned some lessons on Saturday on the defensive end. This is not Oklahoma anymore. And you could feel like it in the game that Kelvin Sampson was trying to talk him through some things and trying to talk others through some things. Emmanuel Sharp took too many shots in this game. You know, he banked in a three at one point, but he was 3 for 9. 6 of the 9 were 3-point attempts. Man, I know that's part of what he does. But, you know, I think from my standpoint, the thing about Houston always is this. If their main guard is having an off night shooting, they don't have a ton of depth. This is any Houston team. Like, if you just look at what they did from a bench scoring perspective, JoJo, as Fran Fraschilla was calling him, JoJo Tugler had a good game off the bench. But Cryer couldn't find it. You know, he hit 1 3, 5 for 14 from the field. Is not like him, and they were in the game. So it doesn't change that much of what I think. I just think that Houston is a team and a program that if they ever get back to the Final Four, and they can, I mean, they're fully capable of it because they guard the hell out of you. But we talk about it. To me, you know, coaches have been swaying this way. Dan Hurley has allowed this belief to come through. Defense wins championships only to a certain extent. You're looking for guys who can score it in a variety of ways because at some point you got to score. And Houston's kind of looped up into that theory for the wrong reasons. They just have trouble scoring against elite competition. And I felt that late in the game. I felt Auburn swayed the game because of Pettiford. And you ended up walking away Saturday night saying Auburn had the best guard in the game. And we already knew they had the best big man in the game, so that was a differentiating factor. And it still was only a 5-point game. What I do want to say is this. I want to give an immense amount of credit to the people, whoever was running the Mattress Firm Battleground, because I think this was the first time this event existed. I had not heard of it. If it's existed before, okay. This was the best this is an elite field with, you know, Arkansas and Baylor involved in the other game. The Toyota Center was rocking. This is a smart concept for whoever came up with this event and did it at the Toyota Center. Why? You don't have a problem getting a couple of elite teams because you're in the state of Texas.
What are you saying? Toyota.
Toyota Center. Yeah, it was
Toyota Center.
Toyota. They played it at the NBA arena. Toyota,
Oh,
like the car.
Okay, so Toyota. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was like, man, I haven't heard of the Toyota.
It's Toyota.
Toyota is what I. Sorry,
No,
this is
you're wrong.
the
I'm
Tennessee
sorry.
coming out. Dude, I had
No,
no
that's
idea
not how
what you
you
were
pronounce
saying.
it. It's Toyota.
There's no way it's Toyota.
Okay, well, you ask the person down at the front desk there at the Marriott Milwaukee, and they'll tell you.
Okay,
this is what happens when you bring To on here, who only drives Teslas and
Right.
cars that have 6 digits. You know, when you're fancy like
it's
him,
spelled Toyota.
he doesn't remember what a Toyota is anymore. He's never even.
See, he's saying Toyota. He's saying Toyota.
Imagine,
Rob,
driving.
you're saying Toyota.
The audacity to drive
Toyota.
around in a Nissan.
You're saying Toyota. You're saying Toyota. Rob's saying Toyota. I just didn't know. I've never heard Toyota.
I don't give an iota about.
I
What
like that. I'm sorry,
pronunciation
but I was confused. I was like,
Hey,
Toyota. Did they have it
here's my
somewhere I don't
point.
know about?
Here's my point. We can talk about Hunter Dickinson. I love this event because it's 4 teams. It's a doubleheader. It's at a single site. We're going to see a lot more of this for NIL money and for different rewards in the future. Get used to this type of stuff. I think it was great for college basketball to have that Saturday night. The 2 games were on ESPNU. Hey, the fact is they found a way to get on television. Both games were strong games. I want to credit the people who held that event on the first Saturday of the season. It filled a void. Nice job.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll talk about Baylor, Arkansas here in a second, but the next game I want to get to is Kansas and North Carolina, and we will break that down after a quick message from our sponsors. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show. There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Welcome back to the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68. Kansas, North Carolina, 92-89. At one point, this looked like North Carolina was getting their asses run out of the building, and then they found a way to make a run in the second half. It sounds weird to say this because they went on the road and they lost, but I think I came out of that more impressed with North Carolina than I did with Kansas.
I think that game, I love North Carolina. I think this is going to be the most stressful year to be a Carolina fan in history. Because the way they're going to play, they are going to go through spells where they miss 5 or 6 shots and don't like score for 4 minutes. Then because of the way they're playing this year, they're going to go on Then they're going to go on streaks where they'll hit 6 threes and 6 possessions, and everybody's happy as shit. And then it'll just fall off a cliff again. And then it's going to go up again. They're going to hit a bunch of shots again, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I think Kansas there was a microcosm of that. The percentages are always going to catch up. It's inevitable. And there's enough good shooters there. There's enough good players there. But it is going to be thrilling. It's going to be frustrating. They're going to win a ton of games, and they're going to dig themselves out of holes, and then they're going to get up big, and then teams are going to come back on them because they go like it's going to be awesome. It's going to make for great television. Everybody's going to be either super happy or super sad, depending on which media timeout you're about to go into. That's the kind of basketball that they're going to be privy to this year. It's not going to be the same where you have this huge dude in the middle that you can throw it into to settle things down. Not going to be the case. But you have elite guards, and your percentages are going to be high when it comes to behind the three-point line. I think they're going to be fine. But, man, like it's going to be a whirlwind of a season, and they're going to win a ton. And I'm very encouraged by what they were able to do. There's a lot of teams that would have tucked their tail between their legs, but Carolina kept fighting. And I think that's going to be the key to their season. Do they keep fighting when they get down 15, 20 points? Because it's going to happen more than once. And they're going to come back and win some of these games because, like, the talent is so good in that backcourt, and the 1, 2, 3, and 4 spots really, really good. It's that 5 spot of finishing possessions, the part that you get worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with $1:52 left in the first half, Kansas is up 49-29. The game looks over. KJ Adams, who did tweak something in this game, but he was terrific in the first half. Flory Beduga gave them a good contribution. Hunter Dickinson was doing Hunter Dickinson things, and you really felt the flaws, of that 5 slot at Carolina. But to T.O.'s point, to say that North Carolina was down at Allen Fieldhouse by 20 with 1:53 to go in the first half, and they led 87-83 in the same game with 3:28 to go. That's remarkable. And that's good news for North Carolina that they were able to do that in the same game. And here's the other thing.
They out-rebounded them.
They out-rebounded them, yes, but 2. Kansas did not guard dribble penetration at all. And that's a big picture problem for Kansas that needs to get fixed now, or else they're going to end up in the same place they ended up last year, which was not in the place they want to be in. Now, they won the game, and they scored 92 points. And down the stretch in the game, I mean, this was playmaking by Kansas. It was Hunter Dickinson coming up big for this team, making a couple of big shots. It was Zeke Mayo scoring 21 points. And by the way, Zeke Mayo looks like the perfect fit, for Bill Self. But I do have my questions about Kansas big picture. I think that they can score it in a ton of ways. I thought A.J. Storr, he took 13 shots to get to 13 points. One of the things that Bill Self's got to work through is he took a couple of alphas on their previous team. That means these guys are going to get theirs, T.O. They're going to get their shot attempts. Bill's got to figure out a way to economize what the shot attempts are in the game. Overall, though, heck of a performance by Carolina. They gave us something on a night where it didn't look like much. And I got to say, even though he went 4 for 10 from the field, I was extremely impressed with the way Seth Trimble played in this game.
Oh, he's great. I love it. I love
Seth Trimble, Rob, was fantastic.
Yeah. So I agree with everything that you guys have both said about North Carolina. I think that I'm a little concerned how in all of these big games they end up with like one of their Jalen's taking a 3 on the most important possession of the game. And that's probably not what you want, moving forward. Maybe we can switch that a little bit. So that's a little bit of a red flag to me. But here's my question to you guys about Kansas. Okay. KJ Adams didn't take a single 3-pointer on Friday night. DeJuan Harris didn't take a single 3-pointer on Friday night, right? Hunter Dickinson was 0 for 2. I think when you look at it, the best 5 for Kansas is going to be those 3 guys plus 2 of Zeke Mayo, A.J. Storr, and Rylan Griffin. Is there enough floor spacing there when you consider the fact that Kansas offense, when it runs its best, is what they did on that last possession where they got everybody on the same side of the floor and they just threw a little lob over the top to Hunter Dickinson, who had Jalen Washington seal up the lane and got a layup, right? The basket that put them up by 3 with like a minute left. That is my concern with Kansas, is that they went out and they added all of this shooting but it's for like one or two spots in the rotation, and you still have basically two guys out there that you don't have to guard on the perimeter when you want to get the ball into Hunter Dickinson in the post. To that is my concern with Kansas, is that because of who two of their best players are, they didn't actually solve one of their biggest issues from last season.
They could throw different lineups at. Like, that's not a concern of mine.
Okay.
Well, but here's the thing. I get where Rob's coming from.
I mean, I understand the thought, but it's the fact of the matter, like different parts of the game, you can throw in different lineups. You don't have shooting and Hunter's playing great. Take KJ out.
Okay, their starting lineup made 2 threes combined, both from Rylan Griffin, both early in the game.
Yeah, throw Zeke Mayo in as a starter. I think.
Okay, well, he took 9 of the team's 21 threes and he made 3 of them.
Yep.
So that's fine. You could throw Zeke Mayo in there and store as well for all intents and purposes. But you're right in the fact that, last year we said that they were lacking in the shot making department from the perimeter, and they were severely. This team should not be lacking, but yeah, they have to identify their spacing more. I mean, I thought their communication was off defensively. They went up by 20. They kind of slacked in the game. They weren't communicating. They were not guarding. And in the first half, I think Carolina, that was like a deer in headlights, Allen Fieldhouse, welcome to college basketball moment for a couple of guys who had seen it and a couple of others who had not. At the end of the day, though, North Carolina, R.J. Davis shot 3 for 15 from the floor and 1 for 7 from 3, and North Carolina lost at Allen Fieldhouse by 3. Like, that to me is very encouraging. If R.J. Davis even plays an okay game, the game may go differently. But yeah, I mean, I think spacing for any team this time of year is going to be a question of, can they figure it out fully? And it did feel like the Kansas, when they had their rut, that they were still trying to find what their identity was until we got to the final moments of the game. And in the final minutes of the game, Hunter Dickinson said, "I'm not losing this game. I'm not letting the narrative cloud the first week of the season about me and about us. We're going to find a way." And he willed them to the win. Honestly, though, in another respect, this is a missed opportunity for Carolina. They were up 87-83 with 3.5 minutes to go in the game. And I think that's where, T.O., that's where the thing about the most stressful, when you play the way Carolina does, it can go 180 quickly.
I love it.
I love it too.
It'll be so fun.
But you got to learn how to close games. And as the season goes on, learning how to close games and understand that half-court possessions is what matters and coaching matters, all that stuff, those little things, that's what Carolina's got to be able to figure out. But the one big thing, guys, like for Carolina, Van Allen Lubin, he was 4 for 4, but he played 14 minutes in this game. Cade Tyson was I mean, if he didn't show up to the game, I wouldn't have noticed. So it was Washington and Withers, and big picture, like, it's not like they crushed it in the portal finding that answer at center.
Yep. Yeah, that's a red flag too. All right. 2 other games I want to get to here before we kind of hit some news and notes around the country. Baylor beats Arkansas 72-67, and Tennessee beats the absolute brakes off of Louisville. T.O., Baylor is coming off of a 38-point loss to Gonzaga on the opening night of the season that nobody actually saw because it happened at 11:30. Like, maybe that game didn't actually happen. Maybe
it might not have happened.
Yeah, it might not have happened. I don't think anybody watched it. Who do you feel better about? Is it Baylor or is it Tennessee after Saturday?
I'll say this about Tennessee. They gave up more open looks in the first half against Louisville than I thought they would. Louisville just missed shots in the first half. And whenever it snowballs against Tennessee, it can really snowball because, like, it is endless pressure, endless this, endless that. Chaz Lanier was really, really good. I think the Dalton Connect comparisons are still strong. Just going to leave it at that. He was very good, and he gave them a spark at the beginning of the game when both teams, quite frankly, were having a hard time finding looks and finding shots. He was the guy that kind of opened the lid up for Tennessee. So they dug themselves, or Louisville dug themselves in a huge hole. It's really hard to crawl out of that hole whenever you're playing Tennessee because they're so relentless. And Zakai Ziegler was incredible. 19 points. I want to say 6 to 9 of those points were just like end of clock, back-breaking things. If I had to pick one team out of the two, that's tough because I think it depends on what you want. If they played right now, I think Tennessee would win. If they played in February, I think Baylor would win.
Interesting. See, I feel better about Tennessee, and that's probably because of where I had Tennessee at the start of the season. Like I was kind of down on them.
I had them back in the SEC, I think.
Hey,
I think they're going to be.
I was a little well. Here's why, guys, and you can tell me if I'm an idiot for this, but I looked at who they brought in and kind of the roster that they built, and I was like, Rick Barnes wants to do everything based off like toughness and physicality, right? Like that's kind of the identity of his programs, and then he brings in a bunch of guys that like are kind of more or less like a little bit more finesse, shot makers, jump shooters. And like that take was fucking horrible. Like they went out there and they kind of beat up on Louisville a little bit. I think you're right about the open looks that Louisville got, T.O. But I think part of the problem was, one, they were sped up a little bit because they knew what Tennessee was defensively. And then two, once they missed a couple and they were like, all right, we're going to try to get to the basket. Nah, no, you weren't doing that against them. So I left that thinking like Tennessee, Panda, go ahead. I know you got something to say. Tennessee's going to be really, really, really good.
I said this on this show in the preseason when we did the preview.
Mm-hmm.
I said I really think we're just riding them away. Look, they have become, not to the national championship level, but in the regular season and in the first weekend of the tournament, they have become a Villanova-like under Jay, Houston-like staple to your top 10 or so. That's how good they are. That's how consistent they are. This was a nightmare matchup for Louisville the first week of the season because Rick Barnes is now recruiting for offense. He knows he's going to get them to defend.
Mm-hmm.
He's that good of a coach, and so is his staff. He's not worried about he wants some dogs, but he can make them, he can turn them into dogs too. You know, he really can. I mean, for heaven's sake, the volunteer mascot is a dog. So
Smokey.
Yeah, Smokey. Go Vols, by the way. No, big game this week? Yeah, big game this week, right? Down in Georgia?
Yeah, it's a big one.
Huge game. Huge game.
Fun
Good
game.
for luck to the Vols. I think they're 9.5-point dog. Might be a live dog there against Georgia. Everybody just going on Georgia. Here's the thing. They're tough. Chaz Lanier was a great ad. He does have some of that connect like scoring prowess in him. They shot 10 for 19 from 3. That's a really good sign. I don't care what defense that's against. That's a really good sign. Louisville's trying to figure itself out, guys. It's early. For a first-year head coach at a program, you're trying to look at things. Last year, St. John's got into the hunt for the big dance. It was too little, too late. There were a bunch of bid stealers. But in the second week of the season, St. John's hosted Michigan, literally a year ago today. We all thought St. John's was going to break through, make a statement, send the Garden on fire. We're all going to be talking about St. John's. They got their doors blown off by Michigan. Guess how Michigan finished?
Not good.
Well, we all know how it finished. And you can ask Mr. Sanderson that. But the fact is, I'm surprised you guys didn't laugh at that. The fact is,
John's my guy.
He is. He is, and he deserved better in that moment. Still does. He's an All-Pro. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
The fact is, in this game, Louisville, you're right. They didn't take advantage of what was given to them. But Tennessee, this was just the third time in the last 49 years that they won a road non-conference game by over 20 points. So a statement was made, and the statement was, look, one, we're not going anywhere. Zakai Ziegler's still here. By the way, I've never seen a guy have 7 assists and 11 turnovers in a game. That's the first kind of line I've ever seen somebody do that. That's absurd. 11 turnovers. I don't know if I've ever seen that in a game. He's probably the only player that can get away with that. Lanier was terrific. Felix Okpara was a good transfer ad. And then from there, they figure it out, guys. Like Jordan Gainey did enough. It's as long as they have one guy or two guys they can play through offensively, they're going to be in great shape because of how they play. But you know what the bigger message is? I got to take.
Here we go.
The Southeastern Conference could be America's best conference.
Oh, that's not a hot take.
No, it is.
That league is loaded.
It is when the Big 12 has owned the mansion in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It is when the Big 12 has been the absolute, don't even think about it, conference. The SEC has 3 legit title contenders.
Might be more. We'll see what happens with Kentucky and Duke on Tuesday night. We'll talk about that Champions Classic preview in a second. I do just want to hit on real quick. More worried, Arkansas or Louisville right now? Because I'll be honest, guys, and this is going to sound weird because of the fact that Louisville just lost at home by 387 points on a night where they couldn't make a shot and couldn't throw a ball in the ocean. I'm more worried about Arkansas at this point in the season. Like, you watch them. Did you hear Cal after the game where he was like, yeah, we were playing Baylor, but we didn't do any zone offense prep to go play Baylor? How? Why?
Yeah.
What? Why would you admit that publicly? Why would you say that? Are you just trying to like cover for your guys? So I get on here and say John Calipari sucks as a coach instead of saying these guys don't know how to run offense against his own. I don't get why you say that.
Changing.
2, I don't get why you would do it. 3, like it's the exact same thing over and over again. I'm with you, T.O. I think Louisville, they got the shots that they wanted. They missed them. They were a little sped up. I think that will right itself. And I also think there's an element of a lot of these guys got paid a lot of money to go to this program. They beat up on everyone in the Bahamas. Everyone told them how great they were. They won their exhibitions by a lot. More people told them how great they were. They beat Morehead State by 3 million points. Everyone's telling them how great they were. They go to play Tennessee. They're like, yeah, we're going to come in here. We're going to kick these dudes' ass. Louisville basketball is back. These 23,000 people in the Yum are going to love it. And then they go out there and there's like, oh, it's big boy basketball now. I think that can be fixed better than John Calipari still doing the exact same shit that basically got the Kentucky fans to go from being this guy needs a statue to like, we got to get rid of this guy. I don't know. I'm concerned about Arkansas.
I'm concerned about Louisville. And the reason being is because when they weren't hitting shots, they started doing shit they weren't supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
They started over dribbling. They started looking for certain players, and like they went away from what makes Pat Kelsey. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
They went away from what makes Pat Kelsey and his teams really good. They started trying to go one-on-one. And Casey Pryor, as good as he is, stop.
Oh,
Like pass the ball, let those guys work for you a little bit, take advantage when there's a closeout, but trying to go between behind, and trying to mix somebody up when the defense is just sitting behind your guy, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Noah Waterman tried to do the same thing. Traore tried to do the same thing. Like these guys, like you need to move the basketball. And whenever there's this much hype around a bunch of guys, and whenever there's, the guys have been paid X amount of dollars, like Pat's gonna have to fix some of this stuff, and he's gonna have some real conversations with him.
Is that just a result? To follow up, do you think that's because I read that as a result of the stuff that we were running and the shots that we were getting weren't going in? So like, I'm just gonna try to do this one-on-one now. To me,
it's hard. It's hard because you're bringing in a lot of guys that were really good where they were at.
This is what we're talking about.
It's hard to help us. Yeah, it's hard to get those guys to stay the course when things like you're getting what you want, you're not making shots. I got to fix it, and it's on me to fix it. Like Case and Pryor at South Florida, it was on him and Chris Youngblood to fix it last year. I have to fix it. Whenever Traore was at Long Beach State, I have to fix this right now. We're struggling offensively. I have to fix this. The only guy that stayed the course was Rain Smith, and he ended up with 18 points.
Yeah, he did. But, it took him 13 shots to get there. He was 4 for 12 from 3. Think about this. Pryor, right? Rain Smith, Terrence Edwards.
Who was another one. He was bad at it too. Like, there's a delicate balance. And we talked to Pat about this. Remember this, Rob. Mm-hmm. Like, Terrence Edwards is a guy you have to let go a little bit. You're going to have to let him go a little bit less. Because like he was not very good, and he tried to fix everything by doing it himself. You can't do that.
Think about this: Terrence Edwards, Rain Smith, Cason Pryor, and Corin Johnson shot a combined 8 for 38 in the game.
That ain't it.
By the way, another problem with Louisville. That is a red flag to me. Nobody came up with more than 5 rebounds in a game that they were missing a ton of shots. They got out rebounded 40-26 in this game.
Yeah. And you remember how big, this is kind of going back to you remember how big we thought Louisville was when we saw them in person? We're like, man, these guys are big, they're long, they're switchable. Tennessee made them look small.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that. Like
Tennessee made them look small. Like Tennessee's huge. If Chaz Lanier's a real bucket, Tennessee once again has a chance to be a Final Four team.
Mm-hmm.
Not once again, but has a chance this year to be a contender to be a Final Four team, which is what we've kind of been saying over the past 5 or 6 years with Vols.
Yep. All right. Listen, we're gonna come back in a second and do a quick little whip around on the rest of the first week of the college basketball season after a quick message from our partners. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description. Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app. Welcome back to the DTF podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. A bunch of stuff I want to get to here, but before we do all of that, I do just want to mention a report came out on Friday afternoon in the Alligator, which is the student newspaper at the University of Florida, with allegations from 2 women claiming that Todd Golden has done a whole bunch of creepy and fireable and most likely illegal, pretty gross stuff, right? Stalking, sending unwanted photos of his genitalia, taking pictures of some of these women in public and sending it to them, seeing where a woman was on her Instagram story and showing up there. It's a pretty detailed report from the Alligator, kind of breaking down all of these accusations. And I do believe that these allegations are absolutely fireable if they do prove to be true. The complicating factor here with all of this is that Florida has had a Title IX investigation open into what I can only assume is these allegations since late September. And Title IX investigations are supposed to be confidential until they are completed. Todd released a statement on Saturday that read, quote, "For the last month, I have actively participated in and respected the confidentiality of an ongoing school inquiry. I have recently engaged Ken Turkle to advise me on my ability to bring defamation claims while this confidential investigation is ongoing. My family and I appreciate the support we have received and remain confident the university will continue its efforts to finish this review promptly." Doesn't deny anything in there, doesn't take responsibility for anything in there.
The legalities is the reason
yes.
He's not denying or confirming anything.
What I was going to say,
let's be clear. Let's be clear there.
Yeah,
there's
and
legal reasons why he's not commenting.
Yes, there's a reason why he's not commenting, and the words defamation claims are in there very specifically for a reason. I imagine they spent quite a bit of money in billable hours getting a lawyer to make sure that statement was written exactly the way it needed to be written. And Florida announced on Sunday night that Golden will be coaching the team against Grambling State on Monday. He obviously will be facing reporters Monday night after that game. I got to imagine there's going to be a lot of reporters in attendance for that. Right now, these are allegations. We will see how this stuff kind of plays out when it comes out in the media. I don't really want to sit here and speculate. We kind of saw what happens when the media speculates on things that they don't have the necessary insight to last year with Terrence Shannon and how all that kind of played out. So it's important to acknowledge it. It's important to say that these allegations and accusations exist. And it's also important to say that as of now, they are allegations and accusations. So some other stuff from around the country. Fana, not the greatest start for the Big East. Villanova loses to Columbia. Seton Hall, your alma mater, while you are on the call, loses on a buzzer beater to Fordham with like you and Phil Martelli, by the way. That booth is really fun. Phil seems like an awesome guy. I hope you told him go Birds.
Fantastic.
Hope you told him go Birds a couple times on that broadcast. And then there was one other loss. Who lost?
Butler loses to Austin Peay. And
Butler
Corey
lost.
Gibson, who
Corey
was
Gibson.
pressed for Veterans Day.
Yes, he was.
He's always wearing fatigues.
Yeah, he was fantastic with his outfit. Yes.
Might be another guy who gets a job again. Corey Gibson's won everywhere that he's been.
They're good. Austin Peay can play.
Yep. Fanny, you got 1 minute. 1 minute on the Big East. What is happening here?
Well, what's happening is, number one, Villanova's got problems that are bigger than just a loss to Columbia. I think that they could get amplified on Tuesday night when they're at St. Joe's at Hagan Arena. Now, St. Joe's lost a game this past week. They lost to Central Connecticut. By the way, I want to shout out Patrick Sellers. He took Providence to the wire, and then he beat St. Joe's. Patrick, you got a heck of a team. Your kids are tough. They can win the NEC. And I mean, if I were a one, right, FDU a couple years ago, that's watch out, because that team can play. They can play. They're not afraid of anybody. Look, it's not a good start for the Big East to lose 3 bye games. None of the bye game losses, though, came from tournament teams. I mean, let's call it what it is. None of us, if you had any of those 3 teams dancing, did you expand your field? Seton Hall, they don't have enough talent right now. Now, maybe Shaheen can get them to – he's going to get them better because he's a really good coach. Saturday's loss was not on Shaheen Holloway. He put together the right plan down the stretch of the game, and his players did not execute it. They did not. If you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. Dylan Adewusu dropped the ball. And if he doesn't drop the ball, Seton Hall wins the game. But here's the deal. They failed to get to 60 points against St. Peter's and Fordham. Guys, this is where, when you have the money that you have, and they've tried, but they still got a long way to go. The proponents of lack of NIL assets are felt on some of these rosters. They just are. I mean, it's not an excuse. I'm just telling you how it is. Butler doesn't have a point guard, and they don't have a center. Not at the level that they need to, so that the playing field gets more evened up against these teams that you're playing that might have returning pieces. Fordham and St. Peter's, each of them had more returning players than Seton Hall did. By a significant margin. St. Peter's had 7 players back from a team that won the MAC tournament. Fordham has Jaffe Medor, Will Richardson, Abdou Simbila, and brought in Jackie Johnson III, who, by the way, could play. Transfer from UNLV. He could score it. But I'm watching these 2 games. I'm there in person. I'm like, Fordham's got the best 2 players on the court. Seton Hall's winning this game because of their coach. It's not a good start for those teams. It does hurt your league.
Yeah, it does.
And it was not a good first week. Having said this, the Big East has 4 teams in KenPom top 18.
Yep.
It's a weird league. It's a weird league because, like, you have a clear-cut top 5. There's no question about it. Connecticut, Creighton, Marquette, St. John's, and Xavier. Put them in their own group.
Yep.
Providence with Bryce Hopkins, question mark. We'll see. Don't suffer any bad losses, Providence. Get Hopkins back for Atlantis and we can talk. Well, right now you're in the holding area. Okay, you're in the holding area. Everybody else from there, I don't know. I mean, there's one team in this league this week that has a big game Saturday, and you're both gonna look at me and say, "What are you talking about, John?" and I said this on our preview show. St. John's gets New Mexico at the Garden Sunday. All of a sudden, a big game. New Mexico beats UCLA. Shout out Richard Pitino. Nelly Jr. Joseph was great, right? I've gone over a minute, but all I'm going to say is this.
But I thought UCLA was – oh, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. Xavier's got Wake Forest Saturday. Big game for both teams. Wake Forest, great win over Michigan. Hunter Sallis was All-American level. This is my final point. So at some point, the back half of your league has to do something of consequence. There's a team Saturday that has sold out their lower bowl, and I'm told they're going all out for this game because it's their one kind of big home non-conference game. Georgetown gets Notre Dame. The winning coach of that game, it's two non-tournament teams. That's an important game for those two leagues. That's an important game for those two leagues because both those teams are where they are right now. The winner of that game is going to at least be able to break through, feel better about themselves, maybe an early season confidence booster. Intriguing game Saturday down in D.C. for both those programs.
Make sure you tune in. You need to tune in to that game. That is a game that you absolutely have to watch. If you're any kind of basketball fan, have to watch that game.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it for the programming, but yes, game is on NBC Saturday at 1:00. But intriguing game because you're right. Like, look, not a good first week for the Big East, but in terms of like how I feel big picture, if one of those losses had come from a top 6 team in this league, I'd say, whoa, 5-alarm fire. This is very, very, very bad. A couple of key games for this league this week. Marquette gets Maryland Friday night in College Park. Yep. Xavier gets Wake, right? New Mexico and St. John's. St. John's, you got to win that game at home at the Garden. You got Richard Pitino coming your way. I think that's going to be a heck of a game, Rob. A good win for the Mountain West there with New Mexico. All of a sudden, how good are the Richard Pitino tweets going to be to follow all week leading up to this?
So good.
Elite.
So good.
Goodman's trying to get them. Goodman is trying to get them ahead of Sunday on our platform. That should be a lot of fun. But Georgetown, if Ed Cooley's ever going to get Georgetown going the right direction, here's what I will say. Last point: Thomas Sorber can hoop.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah,
20 and 13.
He's good. Shout out to Cam Jones, who was unbelievable the first 2 games of the season. Ryan Kalkbrenner. He's scored in 2 games, scored 73 points on 29 for 32 shooting from the floor, a.k.a. like Rob Dosser shooting from 3 in a shooting competition against Terrence Oglesby.
You're going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off.
They've already fallen off.
Yeah. Is there any doubt about that?
He's dragging this cart with him. It's like wheels fell off a long time ago.
We're not going to start. All right. A couple other things I want to get to real quick before we have to lose. North Florida goes into South Carolina and beats up on the Gamecocks. They beat Charleston Southern second game of the season. And then last night they go into Atlanta and knock off Georgia Tech, all without Chaz Lanier, who is currently averaging 19 a game for the Tennessee Volunteers. How about Matt Driscoll and the Ospreys, the UNF Ospreys?
You better bring your freaking hard hat. You play against North Florida and Matt Driscoll, man. Like, that guy can coach. I'm a little shocked that he's still there, to be honest with you. But I'm a big fan of Driscoll. Sunday morning donuts. He does it every recruiting trip. He brings donuts for all the coaches Sunday mornings. People don't know that. Boxes of donuts.
We need to get out a message to Mike White. Next game that North Florida plays is at Georgia on the 12th.
Yeah.
They play at Nebraska on December 1st. They play at Florida on December 21st. So, you guys better be ready. Don't get caught.
You better not go to Christmas early, Gator fans. Better not go to Christmas.
That's
early.
A great point. That's a really good timing for North Florida to play a bye game there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's the thing: they're making money off this.
Yeah,
they collect. Not only did they win,
who the hell schedules them?
Yeah, not only
I would. They just lost 19 a game. They just lost Chaz Lanier. It's like, oh yeah, all right, bring in the Ospreys. Come on, let's go.
He scored 105. I mean, Josh Harris and Josiah Miles, shout out. He scored 105 on Georgia Tech. 105 points. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Daniel Jacobson, starting center for Purdue. Broke his tibia. Looks like he's probably going to be out for the season.
Probably.
Like they
A
said
7'4" guy breaks his leg.
They said 4 to 6 months, and Painter has not confirmed that he's going to be out
There's
for
no
the year.
way.
But like,
if I were Purdue, I would sit his butt the rest of the year and make sure like he is doubly strong in his legs.
Yes. Purdue is one that's a big loss because he had beaten out a bunch of other guys for the starting center position. But two, the bigger issue to me is like, okay, they were already starting 3 sophomores, right? Jakari Harris and CJ Cox were getting minutes at that 2 spot, trying to replace the who's the kid that came in from SIU, Lance Jones. Daniel Jacobson won the starting center position. And they were already young, and now it's like they're going to have to kind of retool what they do. I don't know if Will Berg is going to be that guy. We'll see. It's a big Swedish guy, so
Will Berg.
T.O. is going to absolutely adore this guy. Ginger with a goatee.
I talked about him the other day with my friend Nick, who's blowing me up trying to get on the field of 68. He's a good floor. He's a pretty good floor mover, but he just can't get off the floor.
Yeah.
Like he can't jump. He actually is okay on the ground, but like.
Are you going to give Nick a referral here? Or is he going to go through the interview process with the bosses?
Oh, I mean, there's only so many Swedish people in college basketball.
There's actually a lot. There's more. Maybe it's just because I know that you're.
Now you notice them.
Yeah, I notice them every time. But like, Southern Illinois got a kid, Ali Deba, who is from
good player.
There was another kid.
Ali's a good player.
Yeah, there was another.
He was at Coastal Carolina before, but he got
injured. No, his brother. That was his brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's 6 Debas. 3 of them have played college basketball.
Yep.
Abrime Deba started at Coastal and went to South Carolina. I think he's still there because
basketball is growing like freaking wildfire in Sweden.
Yeah, there's another kid, so I can't remember who it was. Go ahead, Fana.
I know you're doing news and notes. I just want to throw in 2 Big Ten notes. One, Kasparis Jacobson. How about this line against SIUE? 12 points, 13 assists. He had a 13 assist game. Do you know how hard that is to do? That's like 30 points right there off assists, if not more. 8 rebounds. And between him and then I like what I'm seeing from Tomislav Ivisic. This guy had 18 points and 7 rebounds in that win over SIUE. I know it's early, but I think that it's interesting to see some of these pieces come together for Brad Underwood, and there's a debate of whether or not they're a top 25 team. I think that they are. Illinois 2-0 on the season. We get a better gauge as we go along. Number 2, one of the wins of the week as well. Came on opening night, might have gotten forgotten because of Gonzaga Baylor. But how about Ohio State? John Mobley, guys, Bruce Thornton. Let's not forget about the Buckeyes. Jake Diebler takes over that job. They came ready to play on opening night. I thought their guard play was outstanding. Mobley is a microwave. Thornton can flat out play.
They got a big one this week, don't they? Ohio State?
They're good. Do they have A&M? Is that right?
Somebody coming up. Yeah, A&M on Friday night. Friday night, by the way, going to be another awesome night of hoops. Alabama, Purdue, Marquette is playing Maryland. Wazoo's playing Iowa. Arizona's playing at Wisconsin. Ohio State's playing at Texas A&M. Going to be a really good night of basketball there.
I love that point on Illinois. Can I make a point real quick? I think like that game.
If I said no, you can't. Would you just keep going?
Yeah, probably. The with Casper Sionis. That's did I hit that?
Yeah.
Kasparis Jacobson.
Yeah, Jacobson. Jacobson, like that dude's going to be better when the game slows down. I remember because he's going to be able to see over the defense and read it. I didn't have the name right in front of me. If I were doing a game, I would have had the name right in front of me.
I only have it because Derek Burson sent me an email because I butchered them so badly in the preseason. So he said, "I just want to try to help you. Here's a couple pronunciations." Okay. So it's Jacobson, it's Ivisic.
Oh, I know Ivisic. Ivisic is it's the twin brother of Big Z.
Not twins. Brother. They're not. Are they twins?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so. Well, now you're making me doubt myself, but I think they are. Doesn't matter. But they're going to be better when the game slows down. Both of those guys are great for Big Ten play. So even though
you are right. Good job, Tio.
Yeah.
Tomislav was born 4 minutes earlier, though.
Yeah, Tomislav, when I first heard about Big Z coming over, I called his agent over there. I was like, what is it? And he goes, well, one's Powell and one's Mark.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine for a second being a parent and having two 7-foot twins living in your house? Just imagine how much money you spend on shoes as they grow through sizes in like every 3 months.
I just want to go to Thanksgiving dinner with Tomislav and Big Z and say, so guys, as you sit down, tell me about the differences in the way you get coached.
Yeah.
Just a little bit different.
Yeah, a little different. But those guys will be really good. I think Illinois, they're going to give people fits in the Big Ten. Do they win the Big Ten? They'll be in the mix. They'll be in the mix.
The talent is absolutely there, but like, can you play somebody? Like,
okay.
They played somebody. They played Ole Miss, got the doors beat in. By the way, another team in an exhibition who got their doors beat in played really well against at Gonzaga. Hurley in that game against Duke showed nothing. He showed nothing. Bobby Hurley did a great job of just, hey, you guys want to do it your way? Go ahead. We'll see how that goes. It was almost like a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to slow it down when the game comes, when the real stuff comes, and I'm going to set you guys up for success. Bashir, what's his last name? The kid,
Bashir Jihad.
Jihad. Whew, that kid's good, and he was terrific that game. We all keep waiting for Jaden Quaintance. I think we need to remember, like, either he just turned 18 or he's still 17. I can't remember. But, like, super young, so you're going to see flashes, but it's not going to be consistent, especially this year. But the Arizona State team's better than what they showed against Duke. That's for damn sure. So somebody asked me, like, is it that Duke's that good, or is it that the exhibition game didn't matter? I would lean more so to the exhibition game didn't matter.
Can't overreact to exhibitions.
Yeah, Duke is super good. But I don't know that if they play Arizona State during.
Where do you guys stand on Gonzaga? Because
they're good, man. They're good. The game slowed down a little bit. The game slowed down.
That's it.
And because Hurley controlled tempo really well, called sets every time down, they had a hard time getting out. And whenever Arizona State did turn it over, it was dead ball turnovers. So they had to come down and run offense. That's not where Gonzaga's at their best, but
yeah,
they can still score, and they still won, and it was a grinded out game at home. But yeah. I was more impressed with Arizona State because I didn't think they had that in them, and they did.
I think there's an argument you can make that Gonzaga is the best team in college basketball this season.
Yeah, it's certainly there to be had.
Because they can beat you so many different. Like, Ryan Nembhard is as good in pick and rolls as anybody in the sport, and he is in an offense where they're going to pick and roll you to death. They got 3 guys that you could roll out there out of those pick and rolls, and they're just going to seal you on the block. And if you go one-on-one with them and you're on their back, and Ben Gregg, Graham Ike, and Braden Huff, like, you're done. It's a bucket or a foul. Ike and Huff can really pass out of double teams, and I think that we saw them be able to they just eviscerated Baylor doing that. And then, oh, by the way, like, if all else goes to shit, Caleb Battle can go out there and get you 19 points and a half and turn what should have been a loss into a win just because he is an absolute bucket getter. Like, he brings a different dynamic they don't have on that roster. I think that they are very, very good. Then I'm sorry, Fenda, they belong to me in the same conversation as Alabama, Kansas, maybe even Auburn now. I think Duke is in there as well.
Final Four, good.
Connecticut.
You have to, I was going to say you have to put UConn in there until UConn proves that they're not in there. I think UConn's got some work to do. I think that they can get there. Guys,
Dan said that. Dan has said that.
Jaden Ross is going to be a fucking monster. Okay, he is really good. Like, he moves different than all of their other wings.
You can't. It's the first week of the year. Like, things are going
I'm here to overreact, Fanta.
Yeah, Fanta, this is the best.
I'm here to completely.
You can't prove us wrong.
I'm completely ready to pour this on thick right now.
Yeah.
I'm in Milwaukee. The sun's going down at 4:00. Like, I'm here for all this right now.
All right. We need to do a Champions Classic preview because we got to talk about this. We need official picks. We need official predictions. We need official projections. Kansas, Michigan State starting things off. T.O., you're all in on the Michigan State bandwagon. You think that they
are until they play Kansas. Kansas wins.
Well, no. So what does Michigan State have? Like, how does this play out? Kansas State, by the way, 6.5-point favorite right now at BetMGM.
Oh,
they're gonna have to compete with them physically and grab this game down, mess it up a little bit. Kansas wins.
Fanta?
Michigan State's going to be in this game with 2 minutes to go. Whether they win it or not, we'll see. But they're going to hang in this game because Tom is elite at staying in the game and kind of just mucking it up and making it a half court battle, which is what you got to do. You got to take away Kansas's tempo. You got to take away Kansas's tempo. You got to defend.
Which is nuts because once it slows down, you go to Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, you can, but Tom seems to be good throughout the course of his career at doing enough in the post. Didn't do it against Zach Edey. This is more of a welcome sight against Hunter Dickinson. What does Michigan State have to do? Well, they're going to need Jaden Akins to come out and hit shots. He went 0 for 3 against Niagara from downtown. He's got to come out and hit some shots. Jeremy Thiers can't disappear. He's got to score. He can distribute the basketball, but he's got to score some. And Frankie Fiddler needs to be a factor as well. You brought him into scoring games like this. Jackson Kohler played quite well against Niagara. Is that going to translate to this game? We'll see. And then will the real Xavier Booker step up? I mean, Xavier Booker was so highly touted coming out of high school. We've been waiting for a night where we're like, that was Xavier Booker. I do think that Jace Richardson
went to the wrong place, man. He went to the wrong school for a guy that's 6'11" and skilled and wants to be on the perimeter.
I do think that Jace Richardson can make an impact in this game because he supplies instant offense. Kansas is the better team on paper, but Tom Izzo is an unbelievable coach. 6.5, that's an interesting line because I actually thought that could have been closer to 8 or 9. That tells me this won't just be a blowout. I think Michigan State will hang in the game, but it's really hard for me to go against the number 1 team in the country. So I'm going to take Kansas. They find a way late.
Yeah, I think I would probably take Kansas, and I would probably lay the points with Kansas too. I just don't think Michigan State has the Kansas did whatever they wanted to offensively against North Carolina, more or less, and I think that same thing is going to happen against Michigan State. And Michigan State does not have R.J. Davis and Seth Trimble and Elliot Cadeau to pull them back from a 20-point deficit. I don't think that this one's going to be all that exciting. What will be exciting is the nightcap, Duke and Kentucky in I feel like I say this every year heading into the Champions Classic, but like I'm more excited for this matchup than I've been for a while. I think Kentucky 5.5-point dog, Fanta. I think that they're a live dog. I think they got a real chance to win this thing. That's a lot of points.
Wow. That's a lot of points is right. I mean, I'll go with Kentucky on that line. I think that the Wildcats are going to show us something. Look, experience matters, and they do have the experience advantage. Talent, Cooper Flagg, John Shire very angry after the Army game because Flagg missed the majority of the second half with cramping issues. Remember Paolo Banchero went through something similar. And then they found a fluid that would work, some sort of superhuman stuff. They're going to need to find that here with Cooper. They can't have him off the floor with any cramping issues. Look, I think to me what's going to be interesting about this game is Kentucky in the post. You bring in Amari Williams. So what does it look like on the other side with Flagg, with Common Malawach, who comes in with a lot of expectations and there's a lot of hype around him, and rightly so. But the question we've been asking with Duke all in the offseason was, is this backcourt made for the moment? Well, on the other side, here you got Kirk Kriisa and Kobe Brea, and you got Jackson Robinson. Good test against experienced players that sometimes can get a little frenetic themselves. Fascinating matchup down in Atlanta, down in hot Atlanta. And I think it's going to be a game that comes down to the wire. I don't think this is a blowout either way. November, different than December, different than January and February. If it's 5.5, I don't know if I'm not saying Kentucky necessarily wins the game, but I like Kentucky more on that than I do Duke. I lean Kentucky.
How do you match up here, T.O., if you're Kentucky, right? Because Duke is starting Tyrese Proctor, Caleb Foster in the backcourt, Conn Knipple, Cooper Flagg at the forward spots, and Kama Malawach at the 5, right? Who are you putting? So the Kentucky is going to run out there, Andrew Carr and Amari Williams, I'm assuming, starting. How do you match up with those two? Who are you putting on Cooper Flagg? Are you throwing Otega Oweh on him and letting?
I think Amari you put on flag.
Put Amari on flag.
Amari's the same guy that Takeo Siddle called a cheat code last year, like defensively. So you put him there. I think this is the game that people finally get a glimpse of what Knippel is. And that is a freaking bucket who can shoot it from anywhere. Don't be surprised if he goes for like 25 or 30.
Someone always does that in the Champions Classic. There's always one dude that comes in.
I think it's going to be Con. I think Con.
If he does, then his season's over. If you remember Caleb Foster last year hit 6 threes in the Champions Classic.
Stop.
The year before that, it was Quentin Grimes. There's always someone that goes absolutely bonkers in the Champions Classic, and that's the last we hear from him the entire season. You just ended Knippel's career. That's not nice, man.
He could have an amazing year. He could be that guy. Look at Sion James could also have a really good game and have that type of Champions Classic night where then we're talking. No, Knippel might be, for Duke, might be the single most important player in the game from a perspective of shot making, feel, delivering from the perimeter. If Duke gets perimeter scoring, they could be the best team in the country.
Duke's got the best two players on the floor. Like the best two players on the floor, and then you add the defensive presence of Malawach. Now guard play is a question, but they have so many guys that could just grab and go. Like those guys are. Duke gets out in transition, they're deadly.
Yeah,
I think the game's going to come down to tempo, the pace of the game and how it's played.
Yeah, I think Kentucky keeps this one close. I like them plus the points, but. That's going to be a difficult matchup. I think the thing that I have circled is this is the first time that we see 17-year-old Cooper Flagg, freshman Knippel, freshman Kama Malawach, even like Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor, who are veterans but are not the most physical players in the country. They're going up against like grown-ass men.
Sion James, grown-ass man. Mason Gillis, grown-ass man. Yeah, Malik Brown, little skinny, grown-ass man. But my Malawach 7'2" and change. Grown-ass man, I don't care how old he is.
Yeah, but you put those guys on the floor. Yeah, I mean, you get those transfers on the floor, and somebody else has to come off, is what I'm saying. So we'll see. I do think Duke wins. I think it's going to be closer than maybe people expect, and I think that there's going to be a little bit of we're like, oh wow, like Kentucky might be real. I think that's the conversation that we're going to have coming out of this. So
they are for real.
They're for real.
They are, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe.
And they were the net winner. They were the net winner. I feel strongly about this. They were the net winner of the coaching carousel, because I believe Mark Pope was the right guy for this job in this moment, and it's going to do great things. I mean, it's not ripping on Cal. It's just the act got stale, and now Arkansas fans learned a little bit about it over the weekend. I just don't understand. Like Rick Barnes is willing to change. Come on, Cal. You can do this. But you got to be willing to adapt. You can't do it the same way over and over and over again.
Did he want to change, or did he just want to get one more contract with guaranteed money where he didn't have to worry about it and then be able to ride off into the sunset, get free Tyson chicken for life? Listen, this has been the DTF podcast on the Field of 68. We're going to let T.O. go. He's still a little bit hungover from a wedding. Fanta had a long, late night out. That's not true at all.
I couldn't drink at the wedding because I had to fly the next day. I'm about to head to shoot around.
Off to Atlanta.
Go ahead to shoot out. Wait, before we go, Fanta, can we tell T.O. about the prank that we pulled on you on Saturday night?
Go ahead quickly. As I was literally
I gotta go.
One beverage in.
Yeah. Do you remember how he sent us the picture and was like, "Hey guys, I'm at a bar. Woo, we're ready to go watch basketball." I had Dagan send the nightly let's get ready for the after dark text message and have the Fanta as the host being like, "Fanta, are you going to be the one that interviews Scott Drew when Baylor gets this win?" And Fanta was like, what just happened?" So that was fun. Listen,
on my schedule.
All right, get the hell out of here, guys. Always great to talk to you. College basketball is back, baby. It is back. It's got me fired up. We'll see you guys next week.